Stitching applique stitches like the blanket stitch on the Pfaff Creative 4.5 sewing machine, I really like using an open toe foot. So there is a clear open toe foot with IDT, so I can have that pulled down and I can see where I'm going. There's also a couple marks on the foot. There's 2 red marks side to side. That's going to be lined up with my needle, and also one right in the center. So I'll show you how we can adjust stitches so that works. Make sure you pull that IDT down when you're going to engage it. So in the second grouping of stitches, so in your quilt stitches and in the first page, you will find all sorts of stitches. Now, not that these are the only stitches that you can use for blanket stitch applique. You can use any decorative stitch for applique. Number 8 though is your most standard one, and number 9 is that thicker one. Each one can be made bigger or longer, and it just depends on how big of an item you're going around. So if you're going around something a lot smaller, you don't want to have a stitch that's too big in proportion to the shape. You'll want to narrow it down and get it so it's not overpowering it. Vice versa, if I use too small of a stitch around here, you'll barely see it. So finding that happy medium. So when you start to stitch, look at where the green plus is on the screen, and then notice where your needle is. Now with this particular stitch, the needle and that red line right in the back of the foot are completely lined up. So when you go around the actual item, you can just keep the edge of the shape lined up right down the middle of that particular foot. Now let me take you to that other stitch, the one that I said was a little bit wider, and I'm going to just stitch. Watch where it's going to jump. It jumps way over here. So that way I can actually move my fabric to be closer to it. I can also move the stitch's needle position. Now here's the thing with this stitch. Because it's heavier, it's going back and forth more than one time. So I need to plan when I'm actually going to turn that corner. Here we go. We'll turn it, not that stitch, that stitch, and then that way we can kind of come down and work around. The stitches that are heavier do take a little bit more planning as you stitch. But let's take a look at what we have, both a single version of a blanket stitch and a heavier version. So you can decide which one you like better and be able to adjust as needed.